Whoa, what's this? A food forest? What's going on? Whoa, food forest, huh? I mean, not really. It's actually a green screen. But let's just pretend for a moment. So let's say I'm in a food forest, okay? And what benefit do I get out of this as somebody who cares about freedom, as somebody who cares about liberty? Well, a lot more than you think, actually, because if you're asking that question and you don't know, I'm assuming that you should know. Because it is quite literally the foundations to humanity. Having food, having healthy food in particular, being self-sustainable, knowing how to grow food. This is something that's been done for thousands of years, and how come humanity doesn't know how to do it now? It's almost quite astonishing that we don't know how to do it, but even better, we have technology. We have the ability to design something in such a way to maximize evolutionary progress, whether that be for ourselves or the plants in this world. So we can work with nature, not just with our knowledge, not just with our philosophy, but with it directly through the plants and the things that we grow, the environment that is around us. And if we can help the environment, much like terrain theory versus germ theory, we can actually help all things within. Our mindset, our frequencies, our vibrations, our nutrition, our mood. And there's a lot of science just talking about mood, where people can just have a plant on their desk and all of a sudden their mood is better. Like I have, look at this plant. Look at this thing, it's crazy. I have this is a ZZ plant, and I have this on my desk. This thing is just growing crazy, and it doesn't even get much sunlight. That's because I did research on the type of plant that I can have indoors that wouldn't need much care at all, but it's still being cared for because I watch it out. You know, I make sure that it's okay. I give it water here and there, but it's very easy to maintain. And so because of my research, because of my knowledge, I was able to align to nature and work with it. Right? And this is why I say, hey, what is natural is always good, because it's not natural for you to touch a poison. Yes, it's a natural thing to exist. It's not natural for you to use as a human being. So technically, what is natural is always good. It just depends on the context of what you put it under. Is it natural to exist? Is it natural to use? Is it natural to occur? Those are three separate scenarios. Right? But aside from that, you know, you have permaculture, which is a field of study ultimately on aligning to nature ultimately, but in growing food in such a way that the environment works together. You know, you have all these complex water systems that some people build, and with collecting rainwater, and then maybe there's classical music playing. I don't know. I've seen people have like drum setups where the rain hits the drums and it makes this cool like drumming beat. Like that's pretty darn awesome. Right? And so people have come up with such amazing ways to really love the world around them. And that's ultimately every time I see somebody who does permaculture, how they feel. They're inspired, they're energetic, they love life because it's all around them and they get to have hands-on experience with it. So food forests have a tremendous benefit, not just mentally but physically, because again, you're growing it yourself, but also because you have abundance. There's a reason why Jim Gale and his team, Food Forest Abundance, they call it abundance, because he himself, even at Galt's Landing, is like, oh shoot, this plant is growing over here. Oh shoot, it's growing over there too. How is it just popping up everywhere? Because nature does it on its own. Nature is doing all the work. You just put in the blueprint, you put in the exact way it should work, and nature recognizes, wow, you're intelligent as a human being. We're going to grow food for you. Nature does 99% of the work. Again, this is the hidden value in yin. I talk about Taoism and how it's always the emptiness in the room that makes things useful. It's what you don't see. It's what you don't do. Your muscles gain muscle when they're resting, not when you're working out. So same thing with a plant. If you're tugging on a plant all day, it's not going to grow. But if you let it be in the right environment, you're acting only when necessary. And because of that, you're not applying too much force. The plant can grow on its own effortlessly as it is intended to do, and optimally even. So this is beautiful that you can see that in action through a food forest, and you can even go to Galt's Landing and Jim Gale and meet the whole team and see everything they're doing, and you can walk outside your Airbnb and be like, man, I'm going to eat a banana today. I'm going to eat a mango. I'm going to eat a papaya. I'm going to eat some moringa, right? And Jim Gale records videos like this, and I sometimes share them on my channel. But it's because it's that joy in life that people are missing. So there's psychological effects as well. It's all there. When you think about when Jim Gale says, is food forest the solution? Yes, it is. When Mark Passio says natural law is the solution, Where's the tie here? It's because they're both nature, right? They're both in nature, and I say nature is the answer. I've held that most of my life, and that's my guiding principle. It's my only bias, as to say I respect the world that brought me into being, right? It's the only bias I can have, is to say, like, I respect this universe because it allows me to breathe, and, like, I'm amazed that my body can do this, that I can be sick if I ever do get sick because I work with my body, that if I do get sick, that my body can recover and become stronger than ever. That's, like, amazing, the fact it can do that. The fact that people can reverse cancers and diabetes, the fact that people with the right guidance, with the right knowledge, can do almost anything, right? And so it's because they're learning from nature. And if they want to learn from nature more, they learn what is it they should not do as well, right? Because there's a lot of things we can do, and humans can be quite amazing in their efforts, and they can try to replace organs and replace body parts, but maybe that's a little bit pushing it. We see there's problems with artificial intelligence and machinery. Well, what's the solution to that? Getting back to nature. And what is better than being in a food forest the plants are around you? And people are worried about EMF poisoning. Guess what? A lot of plants have been shown to absorb EMF radiation. There's plants that have all sorts of crazy compounds, thousands of compounds, and every plant in nature has medicine. It's just a matter of us understanding how we utilize and extract that medicine. So it's just like all the answers are there. And it's just a matter of time till humans recognize that it's all there and that they can use it, and that they can even propagate and take a plant, take a part of the plant and put it in their own soil, and it grows. That's free. There's no cost in that. And they can literally just throw it in their own native soil. They can connect with their seasons. They can grow things that are in season. They can learn about their environment. They can attract the bees and butterflies, and then we don't have to worry about the bee population declining, like Albert Einstein warning that humanity will go extinct without bees, right? So that, to me, all these ideas compounded, it's so amazing. But now, there's going to be some of you who say, well, how is that going to help us defeat statism, this belief system that is the root cause to all the evil in the world? You're right. Growing food and growing plants is not necessarily going to help that. But if minds can work better, and people are happier, and people are self-sustained, and they have their basic needs met, and they can easily break out of the system that is built upon statism, then it makes it tremendously much easier to get rid of that belief system and to also share that belief system with others. Because every person who goes to Galt's Landing and Food Forest Abundance and they enjoy that experience of walking through Jim Gale and the whole team, it's like they're like a family, they work together, it's awesome. And everybody, and there's people who have contributed, people who sent statues from like Africa and Brazil and, just to help out because people care about one another. You can see the love in action. The plants loving each other because they need to be together to work in harmony. The people being there, doing guided tours, walking together. The point is that every person that goes to a food forest and sees it in person, they're inspired. It doesn't matter what mindset they have. My family, I had my mom order pizza just for some of the people that were there in Galt's Landing. And I was like, why are you ordering pizza to a food forest? She's like, well, she wanted to provide food for them, something just to help them out. I'm like, you don't need to do that. But, of course, I didn't eat the pizza because I just don't do that. But I'm more disciplined. But anyways, just to be kind. And there was a young kid that gave the pizza, and he was about my age, I'd say. And, he was like, what is this place? I've never seen this. And he lived local to that area. And he's like, wow, what is this? I've never seen this before. And it's just amazing because he's just some random person that just sees it for the first time and he's like amazed. And every person has that experience when they walk into abundance. When they see that there's food growing and that there's people happy and that there's nutrition and that it tastes good and that it's just an experience you can't get rid of, right? I remember I went to a food forest, Jim Gale's place, and I came back home and I had one of the best sleeps I've had in a long time, just because I was out in nature with these other individuals as well. I go into nature pretty often and I have my own scenery and my own food forest that I'm growing, but his is already quite developed and not even a long amount of time. And, the health effects I got just from being there and being with cool people, I say are pretty immense. So if you're all doomsday and you're like, the world is ending and there's problems and nobody's going to listen, you probably should consider a food forest, not just to be self-sustainable for when things do go down or for when you are ready for when things must go down, but also to help waken up others and show by example, and to provide good nutrition, and to clean out the air, and to help nature and all the wildlife. Man, it's just a win-win solution for everything, is it not? It's also a way to barter and trade. It's economics. So you can cross down the list. You can go down every single thing on the list, and Food Forests say, yep, that's the solution. Pretty darn amazing. So let me know your thoughts about that. If you've started a food forest, I will definitely record my food forest. I haven't done it, but we actually have over about 50 plants in my backyard, and it's not even a lot of land. We used to have 2 acres in Pennsylvania, but my parents wanted to downscale, which I'm totally cool with, because, they had too much land to uphold on their own back in PA, and down here you could also grow like pretty much everything. So quite convenient having that, and we can grow anything from Asia, so I'm even growing green tea, which I'm very excited about. But it is quite exciting, and it's amazing to see that rainfall can make your plants grow, and electroculture using copper wire can make your plants grow, and just using the right strategies and solutions can make everything work much better. And that goes for anything in life, right? And it's all voluntary. There's no violence in this process. If anything, it's a reach for peace, because people are fighting over food. People are fighting over water in the world, and people shouldn't have these problems in the 21st century. Most people can agree. It's like, why are we still having these problems? You look at people's lawns. You see how people have them all perfectly manicured, and they have to look so perfect. Okay, but what is it doing for anybody? If anything, it's just adding poisons to the water supply, to the food supply, and preventing bugs, preventing life. Jim Gale walks in some of his videos, he's like, where's the life here? He walks through the neighborhoods, he's like, all these lawns could be food forest. He walks through a park. The park can be a food forest. Free food for everybody. What about the churches? They claim to care about humanity. They can create a literal Garden of Eden on earth, but they never consider it. It's astonishing. And so you can start very simply, and I encourage that you do. Just do a little bit of research. It goes a long way. I'm telling you, I barely touch my plants, and they are growing tremendously, and I didn't even go in with any plan at all. I just said, hey, I'm going to work with the natural environment by putting them directly in the ground with some of the native soil, and then including some compost, and then, making my own compost tea, using, eggshells and things that I've gathered through everyday, daily dietary practice. And so, you just gather all the remnants of juicing, and you bring all that stuff together, and you can compost it, put it in a bag, and then have it in your watering container, and then you can water the plants. But you don't even need to water the plants. You don't even really need to do much, because if you get enough rainfall, if you let things be, you won't get root rot. If you're near wetlands, you don't have to worry as much as well. There's a lot of things that you can learn about your environment, yourself, and nature to realize you don't have to work so hard. I met people who would take out all the soil of their land, replace all the soil, right? And they're like, okay, we want to start growing stuff. I'm like, you realize you just spent a bunch of money on trying to make something really perfect, or try to make something like over the top, when in reality, you did not have to do that, and it's actually just going to make your situation much harder. And when I said that to them, they're like, ah, man, well, too late. And that happens a lot, right? That happens with a lot of people who are gardening, and they want things to look pretty. And some people are in neighborhoods too, where it's restricted. You can't do certain things. All that's going to change over time naturally, as people realize this is something you can't get away from. Who's going to disagree with growing food? Who's going to disagree with feeding the world? It's something that everybody I've met agrees with. So if you can stand on principle and stand for the most natural of things, you can guarantee that nature will support nature just as much as the man-made systems support itself and create their own feeding loops for their own system and perpetual ignorance and confusion. But we don't need that. We can have perpetual love and perpetual knowledge. And it all starts with you. I'm going to link in the description Galt's Landing, their website, and Food Forest Abundance, but I also have a page dedicated to this, theliberator.us/food, theliberator.us/food, and you'll see there's also a really cool animation and video talking about permaculture and food forest, so be sure to check it out. Thank you very much for watching.